everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Where the Game Lives on, the official podcast of the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame and the Price Cutter Charity Championship. It's season 1, episode 7. We're basically like halfway through this thing. We've got a special guest today. My co-host Byron Shive is out on vacation currently, but we've got a returning face. How are we doing this morning?
Very well. Thanks for having me for a second time in 7 episodes.
Guess you didn't do too bad, right? You got the call back.
Got the invite back, so we'll see if we can do a good job the second time.
Sounds good. That's Taylor Frederich, by the way, our director of operations. He's been busy. We've all been busy. We just wrapped up the Price Cutter Charity Championship here a little over a week ago, and we're kind of adjusting right now. We worked 18 straight days just with different events, preparations, things that were going on ahead of the tournament. What did you do once you finally had some time off?
Just did that. Was kind of mindless. So that was one thing for all of us, at the Hall of Fame. We're not only responsible for being here physically, but we're also here mentally as well. So it is quite a taxing, 18 days of work. But yeah, just whenever we got that final putt dropped on Sunday, we do the cleanup and then, hey, we're back to work on Monday. But again, it is a little bit of an opportunity just to kick the feet up a little bit, relax after having been quote unquote on for basically 3 weeks straight. So
yeah, I just laid out at the pool, just kind of like honestly just didn't worry about anything, tried to get away from everything.
And that's the best thing to do. One thing that I always tell people is I know it's not the same for everybody around here, but I stay away from the golf course whenever after the tournament. We spend so much time on it. In a working capacity, the last place that I want to be is a golf course in any kind. With that being said, we'll definitely try to get back out there and squeeze around in here pretty soon.
Yeah, no doubt. I was guilty of that, I guess. I did go play around on Sunday, and it was hot. It was rough.
That's one of those things, obviously. In July and early August in the Ozarks, that's something that you're always going to be battling against is that steamy, hot humidity. So
yeah, no kidding. I'll tell you what, one thing I did do that I really enjoyed, and I'm not trying to give free advertising here, but 14 Mill Market. Have you been to that place?
So we actually went, I took my daughter and my wife went the other day. Just we're there for a very, very short period of time, but we had some tacos there. I was very, I don't want to, I guess impress isn't the right word. It was a crowd of people that was diverse. There were families there. There were, older people there. There were, adults, young adults our age. But yeah, I think it's something that really appeals to the wide ranges of everybody in Southwest Missouri.
I thought it was a very interesting concept for anybody that's not aware of it. It is a new place. I would probably call it a cafeteria, maybe a food court, essentially an enclosed food court that's in the suburbs of Springfield. One thing that I really liked is aside from like there was a bar there, so it's not necessarily like a mall food court. There's kind of some added stuff. There's like a lot of yard games. One thing I kind of like though is each little place that was there, they basically had like a la carte options.
Right.
So like that's kind of what I did. It's like, oh, I got a slice of pizza here and I got a chicken wing here. Instead of just getting like one big thing from one place, I kind of tried each of them.
Absolutely, and that's something that is unique about it. And then the dessert aspect as well. I know that my daughter, I don't even know if it was frozen yogurt or ice cream or what it was, but she walked out of there with a large waffle cone ice cream cup of some kind. So yeah, there's a little bit of everything for anybody there.
For sure, yeah. And if you can't tell, we're definitely the last thing we're thinking about the last few days having off was work. That's why our president is out right now. Everybody's taking their vacation before we kind of shift gears here into more of the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame stuff now that we're kind of getting on the back end of the summer here. We got a lot of big events coming up. We've got our Celebrity Golf Classic in St. Louis, and then also a pretty big event, the Stan Musial, which takes place at Lake of the Ozarks. Is that your favorite event of the year?
It's our flagship golf event of the year, so it is the Hall of Fame's nicest golf event that we do host each year. It is a great event. It's at Old Kinderhook up in Camdenton. There is a great host of celebrities that do attend this event and play with our sponsored teams. but it is a kind of a stay and play tournament. So we'll have a nice dinner, auction, and party the night before on August 27th before we do our actual golf on August 28th. So again, it is the flagship event for the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame in terms of our golf calendar, and it's something that we're really excited about this year.
Yeah, and we'll keep this a little obscure here, but there's some big names who are going to be in attendance. We're very excited, and hopefully, maybe if we're lucky, maybe we'll get them to sit down on the podcast with us.
Absolutely. So yeah, we're always excited about the host of celebs and Missouri Sports Hall of Famers that we do have that come and play in this event. We have heard from one this year that we are awfully excited about attending. So we're really looking forward to August 27th, 28th for the Stan Musial event.
No doubt, no doubt. I I will be taking some time off as well prior to these events that we're mentioning coming up. If you're tuning in next week, Byron or B Shive, as I call him on the podcast, we'll be back. We'll be hosting that thing remotely, but it'll still be coming out on Wednesday, as all of our episodes typically do, and it'll be on YouTube just as normal. We'll just not be here in the studio, but shifting gears a little bit, maybe, I guess. I'm getting ready to take some time off. Going to be just doing a little staycation. Probably will be guilty of being out on the golf course a little bit more. You're going to be in-house, though, a little bit. You're not going to be going anywhere quite soon. Why is that, though?
So although I have no vacations upcoming, which again, as you alluded to, Noah, it's a great time for our staff to again take a little time off, go vacation, whether that's going somewhere or doing exactly like you said, sticking around. I will be sticking around. I have my second child who is scheduled to be born here in just a couple weeks. So anyway, I'm kind of on daddy alert, so to speak, in terms of it could happen at any time over the next couple weeks. But I'm kind of on standby here. So anyway, we've got a couple more weeks left. My wife is sure ready to have the baby, as we were kind of talking about the humidity and the heat here in the Ozarks. She's ready to have ready to have the baby. And I am too, so we're awfully excited about that.
That's rough. We saw her out at the golf tournament, and I was like, yeah, she's probably not going to stay out here too long. But...
and that's the thing with, obviously, the heat and her. It can be tough having a 2-year-old. I've got a 2-year-old daughter. It can be tough having a 2-year-old at a golf tournament as well, because, again, there are times you have to be quiet, and sometimes she doesn't necessarily listen to that very well. So,
well, she's adorable. Your first one was a girl, and she's awesome. She is a cutie. A boy this time around. You guys have announced that, right? I didn't spoil that.
No, yeah.
Okay, but the future basketball guy here, he's huge. That's what I'm hearing, right?
Baby is measuring quite large right now, so I guess catch-22, depending on who you ask, is a good or a bad thing.
It didn't hurt your feelings, but your wife wasn't too.
Yeah, she was not too thrilled with the thought of a potential double-digit pound baby incoming, but anyway, as every parent is, we're just hoping for a healthy baby and a healthy mama here over the next couple weeks.
Yeah, well, we all certainly are. We know you're going to be out once that happens, and rightfully so. Hopefully you enjoy some time with the newest member of your family for sure. So,
looking forward to it, man.
Well, moving on a little bit in some recent sports news, we're going to stay away from the St. Louis Cardinals. Everybody knows they had a busy weekend. Definitely not in the buyers category. They're in the sellers category right now, but I don't even want to touch on it. Either way, we have to keep tabs on it. We keep an eye on it. It's part of our job. But one thing we were talking about this past week, and I know you didn't watch it, UFC 291. It was a pretty good card. Gaethje with the upset over Poirier. And that was, I mean, I don't follow it that closely, but I heard that it was a pretty big upset in regards.
I have several buddies who follow the sport religiously. I mean, they're ones who watch it every weekend. Certainly the larger cards as well that come out. I keep my thumb on it to some degree. I see a lot of the after the fact. I'm not necessarily watching it live, but I am on. Is it still Twitter? Twitter.
It's X now. Yeah. I think everybody still calls it Twitter.
It's I know,
but it's not Twitter.
So whatever it is, but again, I'm pretty in tune with that. So again, get to follow up But yeah, it's one of those things that it's still an exciting and emerging sport.
But yeah, I'm like you. I have several buddies who follow it really religiously. I almost just see it as an excuse to kind of have people get together and come over to the house a little bit. Um, but I'll tell you what, these guys like they just impress me. I mean, not maybe in the sense that like they're the perennial athlete in the entire world, but just being just savages. I mean, it really impresses me that you're willing to stare down another guy who is trying to like inflict as much bodily pain on you as they can, and yet these guys look like they're just in their element. Like they just look so calm and relaxed when they're in the octagon.
These training regimens that these guys go on, it's incredible. I mean, really, the what they put their bodies through physically, even before jumping in the octagon. From a diet to a training to everything like that, it is you're dealing with world class athletes. They might not necessarily look that physically, have that physical presence in terms of being the 6'8", 300 pound, linemen. But these guys are as tough as they come, and I wouldn't want to be squaring up
Yeah,
against
no,
any of them. That's for
absolutely
sure.
not. Absolutely not. Did you hear? Let me segue to this. The guy that got beat, Poirier, he's known for having beat Conor McGregor twice, right? He submitted him once, and he's still the only person, I think, to actually knock McGregor out. Obviously, we haven't seen Conor fight in a long time, but they asked the winner, Dustin Gaethje, well, hey, what do you think about? Did you see all this about how he's like? I guess people are saying that McGregor's been like the rumor is he's been taking steroids or something.
Yeah, I saw his comments again on Twitter afterwards, and said something along the lines of alluding to the fact that you have to lose in order to fight McGregor. Again, just kind of another stab at McGregor's only taking losers, in terms of not necessarily taking the champion. But yeah, then came at him pretty hard and direct with saying that he will not fight anybody who takes steroids. So again, I think that's pretty much a direct statement saying that Connor's
Yeah.
taking them in his opinion, and he will not fight him until he submits a drug test to the UFC.
Yeah, which all the power to him. I mean, I don't think that if you have an unfair advantage, I mean, I that kind of goes that rolls into like the whole baseball. Like everybody talks about, like should they bring back the steroid era? And
I
stuff.
did
I don't
think
know.
I did think it was kind of funny though. Whenever he was talking about it, and he goes, I'm not going to fight anybody with who takes steroids. I've never taken steroids in my entire life and never will. And then he backtracks immediately, and he was like, maybe when I retire, I might just I might start taking steroids at that point. And he was just like,
Interesting.
you
Well,
know,
and all those dudes actually, some of them fight till they're like 40, but most of them retire pretty early.
those guys, like we said, talking about the training and the diets and everything like that. It is a physical sport, so the shelf life, of these fighters, it rotates pretty quickly. So somebody's on top of the world for a short period of time, and those guys want to get those individuals who are at the top. So there's a lot of crap talking, and there's a lot of that going on in the sport, but that's what makes it.
Yeah, I enjoy that. And I was actually talking to somebody about that the other day. A lot of these guys are very just cut and dry. It's business. And like that kind of fits into what they do. But I feel like if you want to be that top tier guy that everybody's following and everybody wants to win, you have to have that ego with you. You have to have that persona. Like one guy has like wild blue cornrows, right? And everybody loves him. Why? Well, yeah, he's got a good fighting style, but it's just something that you can attach yourself to, I guess.
And I think that's something too that really starts at the top with Dana, right? Dana leads the UFC, and you see him in interviews and in these quote unquote formal settings. You know, he's not in a suit and tie. He tells you how it is. He swears in interviews.
Mm-hmm.
He does all these things, and I think that's a little bit of the crux of the UFC is allowing these individuals to be themselves, and whether that's be themselves to a fault. A lot of times that does happen, but again, they're able to have a bit of individualism in the sport, and
Yeah.
those guys with the loud personalities and the different colored hairs and the ones who are calling people out and post round conferences or interviews or whatever. those are the guys that you remember. Those are the guys that we're talking about.
And it probably both like gains and loses them viewers. Honestly, I
Yeah,
mean, if it's not for you, it's not for you. If it is, I mean, great. They're playing right into it. You know.
absolutely, and absolutely, they've got to, the UFC has to have those kind of storylines for it to continue to gain the momentum that it has.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, I'm glad to just talk about any sport other than golf right now. We've been able to talk. Fortunately, we've been able to talk about a lot of golf on here recently with several of our Corn Ferry friends in the area or being in town or whatever. One sport I think it just hit me today or yesterday. I'm like, holy cow, football is right around the corner.
Football is here, and that is one thing that I always associate the end of the tournament with. So it's always
Fair,
something
okay.
for me, having been here for many years, is once the tournament ends, I know that training camps have basically already started during that 18-day window, and it's go time. So not only, of course, the NFL getting ready to take off, but we have college football as well, which if you can't tell, I'm awfully excited about football season and everything to come with that.
Yeah. So do you play fantasy? You in a couple fantasy leagues?
I am in a fantasy league. I did win my fantasy
Ooh.
league. I played in two last year. Shout out Coleman. I was in Coleman's league, and I actually won that league as well as the league here in town with my buddies. So I was 2 for 2 last year in fantasy, and hoping to
Little subtle flex there.
hoping to have a good showing
Yeah.
again this year.
Or do you play in PPRs?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's I like it. I don't. Some people are like hardcore, like no, you can't play it, but I think PPRs is
That's
the way
how
to go.
we've always. I mean, that's how we've always played,
Yeah.
and I don't see that.
I was
see that
in
changing.
I was in 2 leagues as well last year. Won, and it's like it's not my top league, but I won that one. But then in my other league where everybody talks the smack and it's a buy-in and all that kind of stuff, didn't even make the playoffs. Haven't made the playoffs in it. It's one of those leagues we've had it going for like 8 years now, and I've never made the playoffs. I don't think.
I will tell you that one thing. I'll backtrack here a little bit. I'll put an asterisk on both of those wins.
Okay.
Because if you recall, that was when the DeMar Hamlin situation went down with the Bills and I don't know.
Bengals?
Were they playing the Bengals?
I
Yeah,
think they were
yeah,
playing the
Bills and
Bengals.
Bengals.
Yeah,
Bills
yeah.
and Bengals. That's exactly who. So that game, if you remember, DeMar Hamlin goes down. They end the game. Well, that was the last week in fantasy football. So I was playing somebody who had, a receiver on, the Bills or the Bengals or whatever. Well, they just called the game, called the game off. So in both leagues, we just called it like it was and kind of ended it there. And that was, again, kind of a league vote thing. But again,
Yeah,
that
I didn't
was,
forget about that situation,
Yeah.
but I forgot that it like affected fantasy football.
Oh man,
a
it
little
impact.
bit.
I mean, it impacted everything. Obviously, Demar's health was at the forefront of everybody's mind, but again, the injury did have a little bit of implications on some football or fantasy football things. So
Isn't that
again,
crazy?
a little asterisk on
Yeah,
that.
isn't that crazy though that Hamlin is like he's already back, like
It-
doing football activities. That's crazy.
In pads, man, it is incredible. That's one of those moments that I'll never forget watching that game. Setting on Monday Night Football. I'll never forget it. And again, it was chilling to watch, but what a story! Obviously, expect him to be the comeback player of the year this year. It has to be the
Yeah,
has to be the forefront leader.
If there's ever been a shoe-in,
Exactly, and rightfully so. But it's incredible that the guy is out there and also has the courage, and the strength to be out there. I don't know about you, but man, that would be at the back of my mind at every single time.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, and there's no doubt to me that like obviously these guys are the athletes that they are, and it was a fluke accident. Had no doubt that if he was able to overcome the complications there physically, he could still play the game perhaps. But for me, that's what I think is just a mental block of it. Is like
Every time. I mean, I don't know how every single time he doesn't strap up that last pad or tie his shoe and think about what happened. Think about
like
what
I almost
happened
did
last
this
year,
once and didn't. Yeah,
and very fortunate to be in the situation that he is, and again, just what an awesome story that he was able to.
I'm kind of glad it's turned out like that because obviously football is always under the microscope when it comes to the concussion protocols and everything that's going on with this player safety and health, and to see him be able to, have a scary instance like, I mean, that there's nothing like that that's ever happened, but to be able to come back from it's really cool.
Shout out to the athletic training staff up there in Buffalo. Again, just or I guess it was the Bengals and Buffalo staff who were both kind of involved in it. But again, they just they responded so quickly, so well, and arguably saved his life. So
Athletic trainers do a lot, but they don't typically go to work thinking they got to save somebody's life.
I doubt any of them thought they were going to work to give somebody CPR on the field,
Yeah.
that day. But again, just absolutely incredible that he was able to make a recovery like he has.
Certainly. Let's lighten the mood up a little bit. We've asked this question a lot. I don't think we asked it when you were on. Are you taking the NFL? Or are you taking college football? What is your choice there?
In terms of just viewership watching,
Yeah, what would you rather watch?
NFL every day of the week.
Does fantasy football play a role in that, though? Because that's what keeps me in tune with the NFL.
Oh, I would probably think it has to have some kind of impact on it. I don't know. I just, I don't know why college football has never been something that has, been neck and neck with the NFL, in my opinion. I keep enough close, tabs on NCAA, but I don't know, man. There's something about the NFL and Sundays that just get the juices flowing.
Fantasy, yeah, I agree. But fantasy does play a big part in it for me. If it wasn't for fantasy football, yeah, sure, I'd still watch the Chiefs every Sunday. Or gosh, they have so many Monday night games anymore. But that's beside the point.
Prime time, baby.
Yeah, that's beside the point. But if it wasn't for fantasy, I wouldn't be buying Sunday Ticket. I wouldn't be watching Red Zone because I'm that's what I care about more. Honestly, is I'm keeping up on my dudes that I drafted to see if I'm gonna, and then I don't even make the playoffs in my league.
Again, I think that you're probably spot on. I think it does play, a huge role in it, and that's something that, again, is an aspect of the NFL that the NCAA doesn't necessarily offer. I'm sure you probably can play fantasy football or something of some kind
Anymore,
in college football, but again, the NFL is something that it doesn't matter what game it is. Thursday night football I'm watching, despite if it's two terrible teams playing, I'm watching. And like you said, a little bit of it has to do with me likely having that running back or whatever it is on that said team.
Yeah. Well, if I have to pick, even fantasy aside, I'm still going college football. I don't know what it is about just like getting up, watching game day, checking out the 11 o'clock or noon game, whatever it is. I just love sitting down on a Saturday and watching football all day long.
And there's nothing like it. I mean, really, in terms of the atmosphere in college football, I went to Mizzou, went to my fair share of college football games there. Great atmosphere. I was at Mizzou whenever the SEC Big 12 kind of transition happened. And again, there's just such an appeal to being on a college campus on a college football game day.
Did I know you went to Mizzou? I feel like I should have known that.
You should have known
I
that.
should have.
Yeah. So.
Well, I went to Missouri State though.
Yeah. So that was an interesting time being in Columbia during that transition of again. Some people didn't like the move to the SEC. Some people did, but I'll tell you what, Columbia embraced the move. So again, whether it was how people dressed going to tailgates and things like that, it really embraced that transition to the SEC. And but again, there's really nothing like a college campus. Big time football coming, and that's what you get. In Columbia, whether it's they haven't been exactly great over the last couple years, but again, you still have the likes of national champions Georgia, coming to Columbia, the Alabamas of the world always. So it's always exciting time around a college campus.
Yeah, it's interesting. You think back on that now and saying how like people question the move to the SEC, right? Well, and now other people are following suit. And we've got all these seismic shifts going on in conference realignment. We've got these mega conferences being formed. You've got the playoff now. I mean, how do you feel about where it's going? Or maybe we'll just focus on one. like the playoff, for instance, right? The conference things are already falling into place. The playoff now, you've got 4 teams. It's looking like it's going to be expanded. How do you feel about it? Do you think they should continue to expand it?
I think that's one thing that's awfully exciting, about basketball. I'll kind of transition here just a little bit. But you asked me about NFL to NCAA football. If you ask me the same thing, NBA to NCAA basketball, I pick NCAA
Mm,
basketball every single time. And I think a lot of that has to do with the tournament. With March
March
Madness at
Madness,
the end
yeah.
of the year, you have some teams in there, the underdogs, the Cinderella stories, that kind of thing. Which I think you're going to get a little bit of that possibly with this expanded playoff. I
Hmm,
think you're going to see some at-large teams, like the Boise States, right, who've
yeah.
been kind of traditionally left out of the playoff conversation just because, again, strength of schedule or whatever it is. I think that you're going to have a little bit of an element of that. So again,
Interesting.
I like the expansion of the playoff. I think it's really neat. I don't know exactly how they're doing this or if they've worked this out, but I do know that some of the first round playoff games are going to be on college campuses.
Hmm.
So again,
Correct.
so that's something that I think is going. I just sat here and talked about how awesome I thought the just a normal game day is at a college campus.
Yeah.
Imagine one for a playoff.
Yeah.
So these are. I think that's a really cool element to, give somebody the advantage of having a home field advantage on
Yeah,
that.
no doubt. I wish I could just sit here and debate you on it and have a totally differing opinion, but I don't. I
Yeah.
think I totally agree. When you get that element of getting like that Cinderella, for lack of better terms, right, or somebody who gets that bid to be in it, and I think you're going to have that opportunity with 12 teams, and it's totally changing the aspect of it from 4, right?
Right.
But on the same note, I think going to 12 is great. I think going to 16 might even be better if we like the way 12 works. I don't think I want to see it go any further than that, though. I think it's Division 2, maybe D2 football that has a 32 team playoff. You're getting close to a basketball, March Madness bracket at that point.
I completely agree. I don't know how much beyond even 12 I would like to see it
Mm,
happen. But with that being said, there's right now under the current format, there's 4 teams in it. There's always that 5 and 6, right? There's always
hmm.
that fifth and sixth. Well, guess what? With 12, there's always going to be that 13th and 14th. So
Yeah,
there's always going to be somebody who feels like they didn't get in for whatever reason it is. So there's always going to be those teams who are right on the outside looking in. So whether it expands beyond 12, 16 would probably be the limit that, in my opinion, I would like to see it go. Um, but again, I don't see it going much past that, and
yeah,
would be not to say I'd be disappointed if it did, but again, I think at that point you're probably giving people bids or spots in the playoff who are probably not going to win it all.
yeah.
So again, with Cinderella teams in the in March Madness, their stories are short. They never
Hmm.
really
Yeah. They win
ve-
2 games and
yeah,
it's amazing.
exactly. They very rarely go on beyond that. But do I think that somebody like a Boise State, might be able to pop off, an Alabama or something? Under this circumstance, they got to pop off an Alabama, then a Georgia,
Yeah,
then
yeah,
whomever. So I think that's pretty tough
yeah.
on a football player. So.
Yeah, certainly. And I think it'll just feed into more of what college football wants because, with 4 teams, you're never having the conversation about a Boise State or a UCF or whatever it is really getting in. And now those conversations can be pretty legitimate, and you're just ultimately getting more games for viewers, and you're still kind of not creeping up too much on the NFL season length. So I think it'll be good for them. I think it'll be interesting. I just love college football. You're saying, hey, you're going to get more college football. All right, not going to hurt my feelings.
Those TV stations sure love the expanded playoff as
Exactly,
well.
exactly. And we'll just leave it at that. Really, another conversation that could totally be had with that another day. But we've kind of come to the end of our time. Um, New episodes every Wednesday, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube as well. Be sure to give us a like, leave us a review. We really appreciate all of our viewers, all of our viewership. Taylor, we also appreciate you joining us back on the podcast, man.
Hey, happy to be here and happy to come back on whenever you need a fill in for Mr. B
We'll
Shive.
always say fill in too. Not a second string. All right?
There we go. Hey, I'll just a fill in. That's
I love
all.
it. Love it. Well, we'll see you next time on another episode of Where the Game Lives On. See you.